Hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. On the hazardous weather graphic, we've got wind advisory out, currently out, and will be out through tonight till 4 a.m. Saturday morning for the upper Yukon Valley area here, including Venati and Chokyitzik, in those areas, down to about the White Mountains there north of Fairbanks. And that's for winds to gust 45 miles per hour. Now, near the Steese Highway, that wind advisory is out until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. So winds today, pretty breezy over in that area. Fort Yukon seeing gusts 30, 35 miles an hour, 25 to 35 miles an hour currently. And again, overnight tonight, you could see those gusts up to 45 miles an hour. Moving on to fire danger. Due to the windy conditions up there, there's still some high fire danger there around the Yukon, Porcupine Rivers up to the southern slopes of the far eastern Alaska Brooks Range. And then also back over here on the northern and northeast part of the Seward Peninsula area, Kilbrook, and up into the Selawik Valley, even just about over toward Kotzebue, and then up into the Noatak Valley areas. High fire danger, although rainfall really starting to put an end to that, where Noatak had a fair amount of rain during the day today. They picked up about half an inch of precipitation today, so this definitely will be a little bit better. Actually, probably is currently better, and will continue to improve over the weekend. Moving on to satellite imagery, here's a frontal boundary right across the Brooks Range, and that brought a fair amount of rainfall. As I mentioned, Noatak picking up half an inch of rain. Killick Pass had 3/4 of an inch of rain. Those were rainfall amounts during the 12-hour period ending at 3 p.m. this afternoon. And Howard Pass picking up about a half an inch of precipitation. Much less up across the North Slope, and you can see there maybe some clearing there. Definitely thinner clouds up along the central and eastern Arctic coastline. May not have been too much clearing there, but definitely precipitation ending. North Slope areas, Umiat, and picked up about 1/10 of an inch of precipitation, as did Prudhoe Bay, which is now ended there over along the eastern coastline. And then here to the south, some clearing, a lot of sunshine today across south central Alaska into the Copper River Basin. Back out to the southwest, and then the advancing cloud shield with a big storm that's south of the Alaska Peninsula. You see a big plume of cloudiness spreading northward. Already rain onto the coastal areas of the Alaska Peninsula, spreading over the peninsula here in the mid and latter part of the afternoon today on Friday, with already a 1/4 inch falling at Sand Point since it started a few hours ago, and there'll be much heavier rain tonight as that storm moves up, along with a big increase in the winds, definitely gale force winds. Otherwise, over the Panhandle, you've got this disturbance here moving out of the area, and showers and rain decreasing this afternoon. Some areas picking up to a half an inch of rain. Petersburg, Wrangell seeing a fair amount of rain during the day today, but again, that all on the diminishing side there as it pulls off to the east. On the chart, there's that area of rain over the southern southeast coast, mostly associated with a upper disturbance here, this band of cloudiness right through here. Breaking up back to the north, scattered showers here over the Kenai Peninsula, Alaska Range, maybe the Talkeetnas, a little bit into the possible 40-mile country, but amounts just a few hundredths of an inch at the most. And then the rain spreading up to the Alaska Peninsula associated with this warm front that's still well to the south of the peninsula. And you can see the tighter pressure field associated with that low. And out to the west, high pressure, light winds, a little bit of some warm front type clouds here spreading in toward the central Aleutian areas, but precipitation free. See, tonight that rainfall stays back to the west, held back by the high pressure here over the southwest Bering and the Aleutians. Big storm coming northward now into the chart, down to about 986 millibars or so. And again, Heavy rains developing south side, moderate to heavy here in the southern upslope areas of the Alaska Peninsula with gale force winds in the forecast. Could see gusts 60, possibly 70 miles an hour at the most here coming in through the passes of the Alaska Peninsula, and also wrapping back into the eastern Aleutians. Rain gradually spreading northward here into Kodiak Island, kind of a surge coming up, maybe southern Cook Inlet, southern Kenai Peninsula areas, possibly Seldovia, maybe Homer toward morning. Fair over the interior, lingering but diminishing showers right along the Alaska Range. That stationary front keeps it wet over the Brooks Range and North Slope, and to a lesser extent in the eastern Arctic coast. High pressure holds or builds in over the Panhandle here, 1,028 millibars at the surface, but still lingering showers persisting but diminishing throughout the night tonight. And those will be gone tomorrow, so look for partly to mostly sunny temperatures into the upper 60s over the southern areas. Low clouds and fog kind of persisting along the coast there with a high pressure ridge right off the coast. And gale force winds here moving in toward the Kodiak Island area, right across Bristol Bay, and then returning back around into the Fox Islands here again. Gusts 60 miles an hour possible out of the north and well, generally north there for the Unalaska Dutch Harbor area. Even Nikolsky could see gusts 60 miles an hour. Less wind though now as the front gets north of the Alaska Peninsula and the center staying down to the south. So definitely it'll be windier over Bristol Bay than the peninsula, and then the wind's really dropping off. Nice day over the Yukon Delta into the central interior areas, pushing 70 degrees here over the eastern interior Copper River Basin, looking good. And still rain periods of here with each passing wave moving along that frontal boundary up along the north slope in the Arctic coast. That'll continue through the weekend with the system out to the west there finally getting pushed eastward. A weakening front drives some rain into the Adak-Atka area. Wind's not really much of a factor. This front much weakened. Still could be a narrow band of gale force southeasterlies in a narrow band in advance of the front. Rainfall due to the slow movement of the front due to the persisting high here over the Panhandle with the ridge just off the coast, also at aloft. So this front really slow to move eastward. Probably won't reach the southeast coast until Monday morning at the earliest. Otherwise, rain heavy at times, south coast of the Kenai Peninsula, eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range. Chance of here in the downslope areas of the Chugach, Manuska Valley, probably not all that much expected. Look for mostly sunny skies though on Sunday. Temperatures into the lower 70s over the central and southern southeast coast, and upper 60s to the north. Interior areas looking like definitely maybe 70, 75 for the highs. Sunshine back into the North-Tack Valley. So drying out here over the Brooks Range. Just a weak trough now along the eastern Arctic coast for some low clouds, fog, and maybe a little bit of moisture, but it'll be quite light. Showers here along the eastern Aleutians, another surge of moisture coming up around that low center. Increasing the rain, not the wind at all, just the rain here for the Alaska Peninsula, and maybe a few breaks on the lee side of the Aleutian Range. Otherwise, not too bad. As I mentioned, not a lot of wind expected with that next system. And for the lows for tonight, eastern Arctic coast there, 30 to 35 generally. Much warmer on the west side, Point Lay up to 48, and then Point Hope 50, lower 50s for the Kotzebue Sound area. 40s to near 50 here over the central interior, about the same south of the mountains with upper 40s to lower 50s, near 50 for Bristol Bay. And your highs for tomorrow, again, 65 to 70 here from the upper and mid Yukon valleys right into the eastern interior areas. Panhandle warming up 65 to 70 for the highs. Lower to mid 60s, Susitna, Manuska Valley, Kenai Peninsula tomorrow. And lows mild 50s here in the southwest. Near 40 central eastern Arctic coast. And then for the highs on Sunday, again, 70, 75 here, central and southern Panhandle. And 65 to 70, I'll call it up in the north. 65 to 72 here through the central interior areas, and definitely into the 60s, lower 60s in Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta and Bristol Bay, and 60s, maybe mid to maybe upper 60s for south central Alaska, Susitna Valley, 40s up along the Arctic coast, and out west in the Aleutians, about like you've seen, highs in the lower 50s.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Started with our first flying weather graphic. A lot of IFR out over the Bering Sea, up through the Bering Strait there, western Seward Peninsula, into the southern slopes of the western Brooks Range area. And also up along the western Arctic coast, VFR from Yukon right up over eastern interior. VFR South Central Alaska along and south of the Alaska Range. And for the afternoon, good VFR for the southeast coast, as well as the Gulf of Alaska and North Gulf coast there. Increasing IFR slipping up the east side of Kodiak Island and increasing marginal VFR for the Kenai Peninsula. Some of that getting up into western Prince William Sound, possibly. And VFR here off the southwest coast, IFR, Central Arctic coast, all the way through the Straits, St. Lawrence Island area, and much of the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. And that same pattern pretty much holding for Sunday as well. IFR a little more extensive up here on the western North Slope and central and east western Arctic coast here through the Bering Strait, St. Lawrence Island, and down into the Bering Sea here. Marginal VFR possibly over the Yukon Delta and definitely over the interior with IFR south coast of the Kenai Peninsula, Kodiak Island, extending in toward the southeast coast a little bit there, but we'll see by Sunday afternoon. Good VFR, Dixon entrance right up to Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, Yakutat. Marginal VFR conditions coming down during the day there as that front tries to push eastward there against the ridge of high pressure over the southeast. It'll be slow, but looks like marginal VFR day for Cook Inlet and the western Alaska Peninsula, and some IFR slipping up into Togiak Bay into the southwest mountains, marginal across the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, and IFR central western right along the coastline there of the Arctic coast through the Bering Strait, St. Lawrence Island, mostly IFR, Bering Sea, IFR for the most part, marginal for the Alaska Peninsula. And for passes, Anatuvik and Adigan, both marginal VFR tomorrow, and then moving to Lake Clark and Merrill. Starting out VFR, but becoming marginal gradually throughout the day. Moisture coming northward, so Lake Clark on both of these on the eastern entrances. First Lake Clark going marginal, followed by Merrill later on, becoming marginal VFR again, both on the eastern entrances. Rainy though, VFR. And windy, marginal becoming VFR during the morning. And then throughout the afternoon into the evening, Isabel, VFR, Mintasta, same forecast, Tanita looking good. Portage, VFR, possibly going marginal tomorrow at some point in the day, depending on how much moisture gets up into the western sound there. And for Chilkoot and White, VFR, freezing levels 6,000 to 8,000 feet here, with 8,000 feet back toward the west, and then 8,000 to 10,000 here across Fognak Island, Bristol Bay, in across the Panhandle, out to the west, warming up to 12,000 feet there, out over the western Aleutian, 6,000 feet for the Fox Islands. Icing, southeast flow here, enhanced, moisture sliding up, enhanced terrain there. Could see some widespread moderate rime icing there above about 9,000 feet with light moderate up into southern Cook Inlet. That'll be expanding northeastward and back to the north and northwest, reaching the south coast of the Bristol Bay area, at least by afternoon, and then some icing possible up there along the, mostly along the Arctic coast there, east side of the light rime variety. And that due to this Arctic jet with some impulses traveling along it there, along the Arctic coast. Otherwise, not too bad over the interior. Ridging up ahead of this big storm, so southeast flow 80 to 90 knots into the Alaska Peninsula. And for 9,000, big winds coming up, 50 to 65 knots approaching southern Kodiak Island, Alaska Peninsula turning easterly, 35 to 50 for Bristol Bay. Light over the Panhandle, westerlies 20 to 30 over the northeast interior, and Arctic coast up to 40 knots, 35 knots, or 25 to 35 for the Arctic coast tomorrow. Southwest 15 to maybe 30 knots, strongest here up in the northeast. And then lighter here in the ridging over southern Alaska, 40 to 60 knots coming in at 3,000 feet here, Kodiak Island, east 50 for Bristol Bay, northerly 60 coming across Unalaska Island, but much lighter out to the west. Taking a look at turbulence, for small aircraft, look for severe below about 6,000 feet here, southern Kodiak Island and the Alaska Peninsula as well as the Fox Islands, with moderate chop increasing across Bristol Bay up into Kamishak Bay, and up over here on the eastern interior, occasional moderate below 5,000 feet. Also that same pattern for the central western Brooks Range out to the western Arctic coast. And after the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
Hello, I'm a GOESR series weather satellite orbiting 22,000 miles above Earth. I can see a lot of cool stuff from up here, and I take pictures of it with my spiffy camera that has 16 different settings. I have such good eyesight, I can see clouds, snow, smoke, smog, and ash, so I can warn you about dangerous conditions and help you avoid them. When storms are brewing, I watch them closely and help with hurricane, tornado, and flood warnings to help keep you safe. And my lightning mapper tracks lightning strikes way up in the sky, even through dark, dense clouds. I also help with search and rescue missions. I listen for distress signals from emergency beacons and tell search and rescue teams just where to find people who need help. But even when I'm keeping a close eye on Earth, I'm monitoring weather out here in space, too. I watch the sun for big bursts of energy, which send waves of radiation toward Earth that can affect power grids, block communication with planes, cause errors in GPS, and damage satellites. Space weather is also very dangerous for astronauts working outside the International Space Station. I warn them so they can get inside where they'll be safe. So the next time you watch a weather report or check your phone for the forecast, remember, that's me. So look to the sky and wave. I'll be here. Whoa! Things are looking pretty bad down there. But don't worry. I'm going to give weather forecasters a heads up and help you stay safe. I'm a GOESR series weather satellite, and one of my jobs is to keep an eye on Earth's weather as I orbit above. But I'm 22,000 miles above Earth. How does your local weather forecaster know what I see all the way up here? First, I have to figure out what's going on. I point my special camera at the Earth and take pictures of the clouds I see below. My pictures show where the clouds are, but I also take lots of other notes about the clouds. For example, how high they reach into the atmosphere, how much rain they might cause, and when a severe storm may be forming. But I can't keep all of this information to myself. I have to share it with weather forecasters down on Earth. A big antenna is waiting for my call. Since I'm a satellite, I send my pictures and notes in a computer language of ones and zeros. Luckily, the antenna speaks my language. Computers connected to the antenna organize my notes and combine all of the pictures and cloud information and translate them into weather maps. They send a version of the maps back up to me. I'll hold on to these for later. Another copy of the maps is split into smaller pieces. This helps the maps move faster from one place to another. The map pieces are then sent for processing before being sent back up in the sky to a communication satellite. From there, the maps are picked up by antennas at the National Weather Service forecast offices in each region. There are more than 100 offices. I also take the maps that I received and send them out to companies that specialize in making the maps more colorful and better for viewing on TVs and computers. The colorful maps and the maps from the forecast offices then go to your local weather forecaster. The forecaster combines the information from these maps with lots of other information, like model forecast data and radar data, to make predictions about the upcoming weather in your area. And that's how I help you find out if bad weather is going to ruin your afternoon plans. You're welcome. Soon it will be my time to shine. In outer space. I'm the GOESR satellite. That stands for Geostationary Operational Environmental Satellite. And the R stands for my order in this series of weather satellites. Like my older siblings before me, I'll do a lot for watching weather, but I'm pretty special because I have a lot of new gadgets. I'm originally from Colorado, but my journey to space has a few stops along the way. I'll be shipped in a very special satellite shipping container to Kennedy Space Center. Moving me around is not easy. I'm over 18 feet wide and weigh 6,000 pounds. And then things get really exciting. I get loaded onto an Atlas V541 launch vehicle. A big rocket! Woo! After Atlas and I blast off together, my compartment separates from the launch vehicle and I continue to climb higher and higher. Then I break away completely and unfurl my solar panel and antenna. After that, I have to use my thrusters to get into just the right position, 22,000 miles above the ground and traveling 1.9 miles per second to keep up with Earth's rotation. And then I can officially start my job along with my fellow GOES sisters, where I take advanced pictures for more accurate weather forecasts, map lightning in real time, and improve the monitoring of the sun's activity. It's going to be so awesome! I can't wait!
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at today's sea ice analysis, still have this area of heavier ice up here that extends down toward the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, and the area thinning out to the north of that and back to the northwest. And about the same pattern, not any big changes expected, or no big changes coming up for the next 4 or 5 days. Coastal water forecast, variable winds central and south coast at 10 knots, becoming southeast at 10 here on the north coast, seas at about 4 feet. Same thing for the inside waters, kind of a variable wind pattern at 10 knots, basically south for Stevens Passage and Lynn Canal, and pretty slight seas. Outlook for Sunday, north to northwest 10 to 15 on the south coast, south to southeast 10 to 15 north side. Lynn Canal picking it up to about 20 knots out of the south, while Stevens Passage and Clarence Strait both northwest at 15. Prince William Sound, light east winds tomorrow, 20 knots on the eastern North Gulf Coast, but small craft advisories coming up to 30 knots, seas building to 10 feet for the western North Gulf Coast. Gales, 40 knots, Barren Islands into Kamishak Bay right out of the east with 13 to 14 foot seas. South of the Forelands, northeast at 20, and northern Cook Inlet, northeast of 15. Small craft advisories in the forecast for Sunday for Cook Inlet, 25 to 30 knot winds. 40 knot easterlies continue for Kamishak Bay and the Barrens, east 30, western North Gulf Coast, 25 knots over to the east, and Prince William Sound, east to 24 foot seas. And for Kodiak tomorrow, 35 to 45 knot winds coming in, with 45 knot winds mostly from Sitkinak to Castle Cape. Northeast 45 for Bristol Bay and the Alaska Peninsula. Northeast winds 40 to 45 knots with seas around 20 feet. Sunday, lighter winds in store for all areas. Still 30 knots though from the east-southeast for Kodiak. East 25, Bristol Bay. East, let me get the right hand. East and southeast at 20 knots for the Alaska Peninsula. Those seas on the Pacific side still up to 13 feet. And moving to the, there we go, eastern Aleutians. 40 to 50 knot winds out of the north, and that means storm warnings on the Pacific side of the islands here, with those seas 18 to 21 feet, and minimum gales for the central Aleutians, northerlies 30 to 35. Lighter winds, and then turning south and increasing to 30 knots late in the day west of Kiska Island. Sunday, south to southwest, 25 knots for those western zones. Otherwise, central Aleutians east, west to east flow, 25 to 30 knots. Turning northwest at 30 for Unmak Island, and then for Unalaska Island, east to northeast, 15 to 25. Southwest coast, south of Nunivak Island, northeast, 40 knots. Pribilof's north at 30 knots. And the northern Bering Sea, west at 15, north of Nunivak Island, north winds at 15. St. Lawrence Island, southwest 20. And for Sunday, southerlies at 10 for St. Lawrence Island. Small craft advisory south of Nunivak Island. Easterlies at 25. North 20 for the Pribilofs. And for the St. Matthew Island area, east winds at about 15, while Norton Sound will see a light southeast breeze at 15 knots with seas running at about 3 feet. And for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, east-southeast 15 to 20 knots with southeast winds at 20. On the central coast, west side, southwest 20 from Cape, or actually all the way down to Cape Thompson to the Bering Strait, southwest 25. That's good for small craft advisories with seas building to 6 feet. And then for Sunday, southerly winds from the Bering Strait up to Cape Beaufort at 20 knots with 4-foot seas, west 15 for the remainder of the Arctic coast. And for tonight, we've got that stationary frontal boundary up there, so periods of rain, including the North Slope and the Brooks Range, continue tonight with dry weather and less cloudiness here down to the south and the western interior. Limited showers along the Alaska Range, otherwise clouds on the increase, rains trying to spread into southern Cook Inlet, southern Kenai Peninsula, definitely Kodiak Island. Gale force winds, gusts 60 miles an hour for the Alaska Peninsula, rain heavy at times on the southern approaches or the southeast sides of the peninsula. And for Kodiak tomorrow, more wind and rain, gale force winds coming in, and also for Bristol Bay. Wrapping back around again, storm warnings out for the eastern Aleutians for northerly winds with rain. And again, a slow movement of that precipitation northward, probably not reaching northern Cook Inlet at all, just the southern Kenai Peninsula, maybe slipping into western Prince William Sound. Stays wet up on the north slope from the Brooks Range of the Arctic coast. More sunshine, warmer for the Panhandle both tomorrow and Sunday, as well as the eastern interior, as rain pushes into Prince William Sound to about Cordova, across the southwest interior, turning to showers over Bristol Bay. Thank you for joining us.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal, pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.